Hey there, all you creepers and reapers. Welcome to another episode of the Femme Fatalities. I'm your co hostess, Anna.
Hi, and I'm Margaret, your co host. Welcome, all you frightlings and grieflings, to another frightfully scary episode. Who are we talking about today, Anna?
Well, listeners, I do have to warn you. If you decided to take a dip in the shower, you better get out now. Because today we're talking about none other than Norman Bates. That's right, Mama's favorite little psycho, right there waiting for you. If you want to listen, go ahead, cuddle up next to the coffin, grab your cup of Bruja Brew, and settle down for a serpentine snack. We're talking about the movie Psycho.
Yes, trigger warning. Interesting mother son relationships, possibly incestuous, don't know. And there's some blood. I'm going to say this actually is tastefully done, the
Mhm.
original, by none other than the horror master Alfred Hitchcock. And so we'll get into it later. He really does build up the suspense. He really does create this ambiance, which sadly, I don't know how you feel, Anna. I don't think the remake was able to capture that same ambiance and feel as the first one.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with you. Also, I think that Anthony Perkins just was the perfect Norman Bates, the perfect adult Norman Bates. In terms of triggers, definitely shower horror if you don't like water or if you saw this movie or parts of the movie and got very scared. You may want to skip to the next episode. Also, um, relationships in general. So we do have the mother son relationship, of course, that's centered around the film franchise. However, we meet these characters in the beginning, extramarital relationships, new love, old love, leaving a situation. I mean, that's pure loss and change. You're leaving
Mhm.
one relationship and going into another. That's one thing about the movie that I have always loved as well is you really are rooting for Janet Leigh's character and you think that she is the protagonist. Like we are following her throughout the entire film and we're going to see how her life turns out. And then a little while in, and that's it. And you really learn more and more about Norman and his mother. Now, Margaret has not seen Bates Motel. I watched all of the seasons. So I think the perspective I have on Norman's relationship with his mother is a little bit different, but we'll save that for another podcast episode. In terms of the horror tropes, and we know that Norman, for lack of a better expression, is what we could call a mama's boy. Definitely babied at his mother's bosom, never cut the cord. Eventually, his mother, at least in the book, meets someone, wants to have a partnership with this adult male. Norman does not like it and poisons both of them. I forget what happens to the husband, but he obviously keeps his mom in the house, or her corpse at
Yes.
least.
Mhm. Yes, and how he deals with this and how his mind fractures and how this movie brings awareness to what happens when we are experiencing extreme grief and we are unable to process it. Before Norman kills his mom, he is grieving his mom. He has had this very tight knit bond with her. They have been so close. And here this man comes and replaces him.
Mm-hmm.
So he kills both of them. And then how is he dealing with that? He can't deal with it. And so his mind splits into two, and Norman becomes his mother and Norman. And then it explores. So then what happens when what dominant personality is going to take over.
Right. And the other thing too is Norman is grieving, but part of that is before he poisons them, I would certainly think that Norman at some point realizes mom is marrying a man, but she's always told me that no girl will ever be good enough for me or for me. I'm never going to have that same kind of love. I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to meet someone because there's no one who will come up to the standard, no one who will meet my needs. So Norman's mother has really set herself up for failure because of how she has treated Norman.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say she set herself up for uh, filiacide, but I think that it really alludes to behaviorism and how we're reared and the Oedipal complex and all of those sorts of things and how that impacts children, especially as they grow into adults.
Yes, I love all those points that you've brought up, and how as children we are impacted by the relationships with our parents and what they model to us and what they say to us, and then how as children do we deal with the fact that most of us have parents that are hypocritical, not intentionally. They want what's best for us, and so they're that do as I say, not as I do kind of thing that parents often say, because they're trying to say do this because this is what's best, even though I can't do that because I've got my own issues, I'm struggling with my own stuff. And Norman, caught in his very black and white thinking, is unable to distinguish, like, mom said do this and mom's doing
Mhm.
that, so this is not okay. So then how does he keep mom in mom's purest form? Well,
Right.
he kills her, and then pure mom takes over that part of his brain to
Mhm.
really push in those morals. Oh, a good girl does this, she's a bad girl, all those judgments
Mhm.
that we hear her saying. I think at the end too, when she's sitting there, so if you haven't watched it, stop now, and she's like, they'll see what a good woman I am, I'm so kind, I'm not even going to kill this fly on my hand, they'll see how good I
Mhm.
am. Like, that is really, we see how Norman has struggled with this. You're either good or you're bad. There's
Yeah.
no middle ground. And Janet Leigh, her character definitely is that middle ground. She wants to do
Mhm.
good, she wants to escape, and what is she gonna do? And like Anna said, we're rooting for her. She's gonna go back, she's gonna do the right thing. And unfortunately, she doesn't get the chance.
Yeah. And it's it's very I love the artistry of the movie that you're rooting for someone, you're attached, you are invested in Janet Leigh's character at this point, and then that's it, no more. Which makes Norman an even greater antagonist. But
Mm-hmm.
the thing that strikes me is so funny. Once again, do as I say, not as I do. Norman's mother in the movie really has him believing that women are dirty, women are, not something that he needs to be around, good or bad. Yet she is a woman, and obviously she had sex at least once because she has a child. Um, so it's very hypocritical in a sense, to say that sex is dirty or women's bodies are filthy. Well, he came from your loins. You, you can't get any more connected to a woman's body than being birthed by one.
Yes. And as you were talking, I was thinking of, again, here is a mother like Carrie's mom, minus all the religious context.
Mhm,
Women's bodies are dirty, women's bodies are bad. This notion that the horror trope often
mhm,
employs, I'm going to say now, a lot more subtle, and we are getting a lot more female empowerment movies. But this idea that because women are women, they are bad for men. We could go back to Lilith, right? We could go back
mhm.
to Eve, this context
Yeah.
that women are just bad. And so we need to be feared because, well, yeah, we can give and take life. So I can see where that
Right.
would be scary. And like Anna's saying, here is a woman that's wrestling with who she is as a woman and her own fear, maybe hatred of being a woman and being a mother.
Yeah. And maybe, maybe she, it was the case of she didn't want Norman. And then, of course, she had him and she was like, oh, doting mother. But the whole internal struggle of this child I didn't even want and now I adore them. I hope they never find out. And also the security, right? It was just her and Norman for such a long time. She doesn't want anyone to come in and take him away because then what will she have? And just the expectation that he'll be fine, he'll be quote unquote normal, whatever that is. Um, when she does marry someone, yet she's brought him up to believe in this kind of alternate reality.
Yes. And very much this alternate reality. When we see Norman's room, like Norman is a full grown man, and yet his room is that of like a child. Like she keeps him like a child. So again, her own issues with how she feels about, we don't know how she feels about men. We can guess that she has something going on because she doesn't want Norman to be a man. She doesn't want him to become a sexual being. She doesn't want him to have sex. And then her own struggle because she does get remarried and we don't know, is she
Mm-hmm.
remarried because money, because she loves the man, because she has sexual desires? I don't know, Anna,
Yeah.
you watched the show, so I don't know if the
Mm-hmm.
show touched a little bit more
It,
into why mom gets married.
it does. And I think for me, how far do you want me to go into this? Because I'll give you a lot of spoilers. Um, I'll try to say it without saying it. You learn so much
No
more.
spoilers.
Okay.
Spoiler away. I will let everybody know. I am the person that's on my phone reading what happens in a movie so that I know what happens, so I am prepared. So I love spoilers. I welcome spoilers. So you don't have to censor anything. I will still watch it. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm prepared for this now.
Okay, cool. If anyone has not seen Bates Motel and you don't want spoilers, don't continue. Come back after you watch it. But so we find out in the show that Norma's the mother. Her name is Norma. His name is Norman. And she has been in multiple dysfunctional relationships with men that Norman has watched over his life. Norman also has an older brother who was born of incestuous rape. So Norman's uncle raped his mother, and that's how she had Dylan, her elder son. Um, we also find out that Norma is very concerned about Norman's mental health because um, you've Norman murders his father. I think in the first season you find out that he's killed his father and they use the insurance money to buy the motel. So this is not necessarily a result of his mother's behavior. This is mental health type of stuff. She eventually falls in love with the town sheriff and they get married, but it is of love. It's a true loving, caring relationship. And she's very honest. She talks to him about her childhood abuse, all of these different things. And poor Norman can't deal with that. That she's getting married, mom might leave me, those sorts of things. And it's really quite sad. You develop a lot of empathy and sympathy for the entire family and just some of the things that they've all experienced. There's a lot of character development. I really enjoyed it. Totally, to me, was not in line with the book or the film necessarily, but it was a really great way to look at it. And Norman in the show is a teenager. He's in high school. So that's another huge difference as well. But, talking about that, it actually makes me think about the sequel to Psycho. So in Psycho 2, Norman has been institutionalized. He's received treatment and rehabilitation for his mental health. Eventually, he goes back to live in the town. He's doing just fine. And then there is a plot by some of the townspeople to drive him mad and get revenge on him. And then we're back at square one. And it's sad because it could be a redemptive story, but it's not because of the treatment and behavior of others. And I think there's a lot to be said about that when people are on their mental health journey, recovery journeys, things like that. Sometimes the behavior of others really can influence our success as individuals.
Yes, and what I'm hearing from the TV show is it really is this beautiful story about how when we do our grief work, our trauma work, how we can grow and we can have a healthy relationship. And then moving into Psycho 2, when we do our work and we have done our mental health journey, our grief journey, sadly, there are people in our lives that want the old us because they only know how
Mhm.
to deal with the old us. The old us serves them in some way, so they will go out of their way to get the old us back. If
Yeah.
when I'm unhealthy and Anna's unhealthy, I do A, Anna does B, then I get to do C. And now Anna's done all this work and she's healthy, and I am not getting my B out of her, so I don't know how to function. I
Mhm.
want the Anna that best works for me because I haven't done my work, and that's really tragic. Psycho 2 touches on that, which makes me think, I don't know, have you seen Strangeland? The movie
Mhm.
Strangeland, which is this is another
Yeah.
movie where this man does horrible things. He goes on his mental health journey, and again, the town people need their villain. Like in
Yeah.
Psycho 2, they need Norman to be the
Mhm.
villain, because if Norman's the villain, I don't have to look at how I'm a villain, how I have vilified him, how I have hurt him, how I have participated in his
Yep.
crimes by being a witness or naive, or we like external villains. They keep
Mhm.
us from our
Yeah.
internal villains.
Mhm. Yeah, and really, like, to add to that, it's very easy to feel villainized when you are going through your own journey. Um, you know, the concept even of just being selfish enough to care about yourself, that's not selfish at all. That's the
Mm-hmm.
best thing you can do is take care of yourself,
Yes.
especially when you are going through grief, loss, change, any of those things. And the old you and who you are right now, well, guess what? Once you continue through your journey, the person you are going through that journey will change again. And sometimes it is very difficult to evolve and let go of who you felt you were during that battle as well. And people, as you said, Margaret, people's viewpoints of you will change. Your viewpoints of other people will change too. Through my grief journey, I mean, there have been relationships that I have had for years with people that I feel, I mean, one of my best friends I've known since like third grade, you know who you are, shout out again. I know I talk about this person a lot. They saved me. I was in a horribly dark, awful place. And I really don't know what would have happened to me if they would not have taken the time to make sure I was okay. And then we also have people that we trust to be there for us that aren't. And as we travel through our grief journeys, they think that just because you're completing your journey, things are okay. So you have one person walking around like, oh, things are okay. Meanwhile, inside, you just like, you're done. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like I'm just no more. No, thank you. Like the healing from those sorts of things may not ever entirely happen. And it's up to you to really navigate those relationships, continue them or cease the relationships, and to remember that all of us are ever evolving. You're not going to just turn from one person into another and that's it. That's not how life works. That's not how any of this works. And a lot like Dabja, the good old denial, anger, bargaining, depressions, acceptance, you're going to ebb and flow through so many different things and so many different life experiences and so many different change and loss and grief journeys. Some are going to be super positive that you're stoked and pumped about. Some will be some of the most difficult things that you've ever been through. but change is the only thing that's constant. And that is very difficult to accept and understand. Look at it this way, if there's one thing you can count on in life, it's going to be that things will always change.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing about your friend. And I second that. Like, change is a constant, and we grieve that, whether it's a life or death loss. And then you get to grieve that. And how do you support yourself? And in your grief, like Anna was saying, we get to this place where we are making meaning, where our world is being reconstructed, while we are coming out a new person. And some people are able to do that growth with us. Sometimes we do our growth, we lose contact with people, they do their growth, we come back. And sometimes people don't grow with us. And that can be grief too, because we can have these friends at pivotal moments in our life.
Mhm.
I can think of those people that were there for me in really bad, dark places. And I did my work and I came out of that. And sadly, they were still in that place. And you get to grieve that relationship. You can say, oh my gosh, thank you so much. So if any of those people are listening, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope and I wish that you get to this place. You get to do that work so that we can reconnect. Or maybe that's just your
Mhm.
journey and I will be there for you in those dark places. We don't know. You get to grieve your relationships. And it's okay to say, oh my gosh, I loved this person and it's just not there anymore. We're all on different life journeys. And how do you find meaning and oftentimes gratitude, like Anna and I are talking about? We have this gratitude for these people. And I know I still miss those people. I wish the best for them and I'm grateful for
Mhm.
them. And we'll see what the future brings. Our lives
Yeah.
just went different ways. So, yes.
Yeah. And that's okay too. If you find through your grief journey and through your healing that no matter how badly someone wants to be there for you, you may decide you no longer want them in that position or you want them in a different position. And that is part of the journey and part of life as well. And you can't put their safety and well-being before your own because eventually that will catch up with you and you need to do what's best for you, what's best for your healing, what's best for your journey, and identify the supports and activities and actions that work for you.
Yes, you get to be selfish. Like Anna said, you get to put yourself first. And if a relationship isn't working for you, like Norman and his mom's wasn't, you get to change that. Really hard with our parents. Family is often a lot harder to change those family dynamics because it's family. You get to practice that with your friends. Which friends are going to honor your boundaries? Which friends is it safe to set
Mhm.
boundaries? Because oftentimes we have people in our life. I know right now boundaries is a huge buzzword.
Yeah.
People forget, like, there are people we can't set boundaries with. There are
Yeah.
people that are going to hear our boundary and they're going to be like, oh yeah, I don't care. I
Yeah.
get to, so then you get to decide what you want to do in those relationships. If you can't set a boundary, if your boundaries aren't honored, if it's not even safe to set a
Yeah.
boundary, there are those people that they aren't safe. So then what are you doing to take care of
Yeah.
yourself? You get to be selfish and say, I can't be in this relationship, or I need additional supports. I need therapy. I need a hotline. I need some sort of intervention. That is okay because not everybody is a healthy person.
Right.
Norman and his mom demonstrate
Mhm.
beautifully what an unhealthy relationship looks like.
Yeah, I agree. And really, when we talk about boundaries, there are instances where you have a relationship, like let's say safe friends, for instance. I think a safe friend is a friendship that is completely unbounded. This is someone that you trust, whether you have met them years ago or you met them yesterday, that you have connected with, you know you can talk to about anything. It is between the two of you and that you support and help one another. That is what a safe friend is. And those are the people you need to identify when you're going through sorts of journeys like these. And oftentimes our safe friends may be going through something in their lives too, and we support one another. There's a reciprocity. I just messed up that word. Sorry, listeners. We reciprocate with our safe friends, and that's part of the beauty of a safe friendship too, is that you're connected, you're helping one another, you don't want anything from each other. You want to support the other person. That is your drive and your desire, and through that you're supported as well. And what a beautiful friendship to have. um you know Anyone out there who knows who their safe friends are, um my safe friends, you know who you are. It's a very beautiful relationship to have and be appreciative of and thankful for.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I just want to add to that. Safe friends, for those of us that have maybe had trauma, sometimes it's a safer friend because safe becomes relative. Because if we've had trauma, we might not have a sense of safety. We might not know what safety is or looks like because we haven't had it. So then how do you have those safer friends? How do you have those friends that are going to help you explore and learn and establish and accept you? If you're like, I know you love me, I know you care for me, but I'm really afraid, I don't feel safe. Those friends that aren't gonna be like, oh, I'm not a safe person, you don't trust me. Those friends that go, okay, yeah, I don't feel safe right now. How can I help you feel safe? How can I
Mhm.
help you feel safer? How can I support you, that know that you just, because of your history, can't feel safe. You're not in that place yet. And like Anna was saying, we get to those places with friends where we have our safe friends because we've done our work. And it's okay if you're in
Mhm.
a place where you're like, I don't have any safe friends. I don't even know what that looks
Yeah.
like. Find a therapist, find a support group, find those friends that you can say, I don't feel safe. I don't know how to feel safe. And then they can say, okay, what does that look like? And you can start to explore, how do you feel safer in relationships?
Yeah, totally. And a lot of the time, our safe friends may not be the people we've known all our lives. Our safe friends may be people we meet at a support group or through an organization, at at the university, at work, at you know the gym. You don't know, but once you do find these safe friends and you establish that friendship, it's going to benefit you in so many ways. And it's not something you should be afraid of. It is very intimidating to have someone say, say, like, you can tell me anything. And for you to tell that person, so can you, it is very unusual, because most of the time in our interpersonal relationships, whether they be friendships, family relationships, romantic relationships. I mean, even our relationships with our pets, right? We're concerned with what the other character thinks about us and perceives about us and who they see us to be. So it can be very intimidating
Yeah.
to have that sort of relationship where there is no judgment and just support.
Yes, and I feel like you touch on something beautiful for so many people. Their pets actually are that safe, unconditional love and acceptance relationship. And that's okay if that's what you have. That is a beautiful
Yeah.
relationship to have. You get to like honor that and be like, yes, this is my safe being. Like that is beautiful. Don't let people downplay that. We could have a whole episode on disenfranchised grief that comes from
Hmm.
pets, because oftentimes when we lose a pet, society really downplays that, like, why, it's just your pet.
Yeah.
No, our pets are the ones that love us unconditionally and accept us unconditionally. I don't know about most of you, but my cat and my dogs know probably more about me than
Yeah.
anybody else does.
You're right. And, they're such a huge part of our everyday lives too. I mean, they're with us whenever we're at home, and they truly are companions. And it's funny, we're talking about pets during my huge grief journey. My dog at the time, I mean, that was she was my focus. And then, of course, she was older, so she went and died on me too. And that was super hard because she was the connection I had to that family member. And it was like losing another piece of that family member all over again, as well as my best friend. But it's funny because people who are spiritual and religious, they always say, like, your love pet picks all of your future pets. And if that's true, she must have been in a mood because my dog now, she's my little sidekick, but she is sassy. Like, you wouldn't believe. She keeps me on my toes all the time. She's my little bestie. But it's just funny to think that, my love pet, that one pet you really have that true deep connection with, picked this wild little beast to keep an eye out. But they are, I mean, you can tell your pet anything and they just kind of look at you and, they still love you and it's helpful and it's great. And they also help us stay in our routines. Like when you're going through grief and loss and change, if you have a pet that requires walking or feeding or any of those sorts of things, they're going to keep you moving, and give you some sense of normalcy through what otherwise may feel like a very chaotic time in life and a chaotic situation.
Yes. Oh, thank you for sharing about your soul pet and sharing about how, yes, when we grieve our pets, that profound loss, and how often our pets can be associated with somebody else we're grieving, and then how that intensifies our grief experience because now we're grieving two people. And that, thank you for sharing about your
Yeah.
soul pet because those are so special and you get to honor those bonds. And I agree with Anna. Our pets pick our next
Yeah.
one. Our dog Hero. Oh my gosh, he has a special little guy, special boxer. He so the dog he picked next, Poe, which you'll hear me talk about Poe. He looked just like Hero as a pup. Exactly. Poe was born on the day that Hero died.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I was still in my grief. I was like, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. I'm telling my partner, like, I don't know, I don't know. No. Poe was like, yeah, you're taking me home. I'm going to be your next dog. And so as Anna's sharing, like, you get to, again, we go into that making meaning. How are you opening yourself up for new relationships and allowing in love?
Mhm.
Like Anna's got her cute little Spitfire that just brings her so much
Mhm.
joy.
Definitely. Yeah, and even with that, like there's no set timetable. I always joke because my parents would babysit my dog, my love dog, while I was at work, and after she died, I was like, I don't ever want another pet. I don't, I'm just done. And my dad was like, same here. And my mom was like, well, maybe. So it was like 4 months after my love pet died that my mom got a puppy. And he's just the most sweet, kind, loving, ginormous dog ever. But it took me like 3 years. And then I started
Yes.
puppies and yeah, I mean, I actually like at the pet adoption place, I freaked out. I just started crying. I had an emotional moment because I wasn't sure I had any more love to give. And um
Yes.
it was really quite the journey, but it all worked out and now she runs, it's her world. She just lets me be part of it, and I'm thankful every day for it. But you have to do it on your own time. I don't think there's any way I would have been able to add another dog or pet or anything, not even a goldfish, to my life, and until I really felt as ready as I could be. And that's the thing too. Even with relationships, if you're grieving a relationship, your timetable. Like
Mm-hmm.
don't let anyone pressure you to get
Yes.
into some other sort of relationship. Just go with your gut and what you feel comfortable with.
Yes, again, thank you so much for sharing about part of your grief journey and honoring us with that. And also, like Anna's saying, there is no timeline. Nobody gets to say, oh, well, your dog died last week. You need to be over it. Oh, your partner left you a year ago. Get over it, or so and so.
Mhm.
No, like it's a journey and we all have different journeys. Part of our grief journey is how do we first acknowledge that we've even lost anything? And then how are we
Mhm.
working with that loss, working with the pain? We have to work with that pain before we get into reconstructing our life, rehaving new relationships, or how our old relationships look. And people just often want to jump to, okay, like life's fine now. We have to do those first two things,
Yeah.
which are really hard, acknowledging that we've
Mhm.
lost something that was important to us or a value, and working through the pain. Sadly, Anna knows we both get on this soapbox of we live in a society that just wants to, okay, yeah, you lost that, you're fine, move
Yeah.
on. Well, then,
Mhm.
no, then we have other ways. Grief
Yeah.
will come out. For those of you that have had grief journeys or on grief journeys,
Mhm.
if we don't deal with that pain, it will come out so sideways, so crooked. You will be crying at, for me personally, I would be crying at things that people are like, what's wrong with you? Is like, oh yeah, I'm not acknowledging my grief, and my grief is here right now. So my
Yeah.
grief's like, you're sitting in training at work. Well, you're just going to start ugly crying in the middle of training. So,
Mhm.
and that's okay because that
Yeah.
is how grief works. And that was part of the pain that I needed to express. Who cares if people, like Anna was saying, if people are uncomfortable with it, move on. You get to be selfish. I'm like, I'm hurt right now.
Yeah. Totally. And like the other thing with that is I always say don't let anyone tell you how to grieve. It's
Mm-hmm.
your prerogative. It is your grief journey. And try, it is easier said than done, I know, but try not to worry about what other people think because no one knows you like you know yourself.
Yeah.
If you're doing what you think is best and it is healthy for you and it is not hurting you, it is not intentionally harming others with, any sort of malicious tone or anything like that, because realistically, that's not healthy for you either, if that's where we're coming from. But if it's from a healthy betterment place, do not worry what other people have to say or what they think. You need to worry
Yeah.
about yourself and getting through this journey and being supported.
Yes. 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 I agree completely. Anything you want to add to good old Psycho?
I guess we do have to ask our age old question. Margaret, who do you most relate to in the film?
Oh my gosh, this is so hard. We have limited characters, very interesting characters as
Hmm.
well. So I guess I am gonna go with the psychologist at the end who is like
Oh.
explaining to everybody kind of like what's going on, like from his
Mhm.
standpoint, trying to like make sense of who Norman is and what has happened. How about you, Anna?
So I relate to the character that she's very determined to figure out what's going on at the Bates Motel when it is
Yes.
discovered that someone is missing. And I think for me, it's more of that protectiveness of the people in my life that I care about. I would be the one to drive up there and be like, you're going to tell me what's going on. You're going to tell me if you saw my friend. I know that her car is there. I know this. I know that. I know that they came out this way. You're going to let me know what is going on. Which is quite funny because I really don't do that kind of stuff for myself, but like anyone I care about, I'm like right there, like, we're gonna fix this, we're gonna figure it out, and you're gonna do it, and you're gonna like it. And yeah, I definitely saw a bit of myself when I watched that. So
Yes. Ooh, I love that. That's like, yes, that determination. Like, you're not,
mhm.
yeah.
Don't let
And
it
then,
go. Yeah.
yes. You're the friend that people want if they ever disappear.
Yeah. Or the one that's like, oh no, here she comes again, depending on the situation. Oh
Yes.
my goodness. Yeah, well, this was a great talk, and I'm very excited for some of the things that we have coming up for our audience as well. Please let us know what you think of this podcast and what your thoughts on Norman Bates and even his mother happen to be.
Yes, please let us know. Comment or participate in our polls. They're also on Instagram, so go check out our Instagram, participate there. If you want immediate answers to your questions, hit us up on Instagram. We'll answer it quicker there. Because if you ask here, then you have to wait for us to do our little Q&A drops where we get to talk to you. So please let us know. And if there's a movie you really want us to explore, let us know that too. So stay creepy.
Definitely don't forget to hang out, listen to any other casts that you might come across, and we hope you enjoyed this one. We will be back very soon, and in the meantime, make sure that you howl at the moon. Bye bye.
Oh.